Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. Welcome to day 2 of ICAO's Global Implementation Support Symposium. I'm Melinda Crane. It's a great pleasure to accompany you as your MC. What a productive day we had yesterday, and I hope you thoroughly enjoyed the gala dinner, so graciously hosted by the Kingdom of Morocco's Ministry of Transport and Logistics. Did you have a good time? Great. So today, we're going to put the focus on building a more collaborative implementation support program, strengthening regional mechanisms. We talked a great deal about their importance yesterday. We want to take an even deeper dive today. We'll talk about developing airport infrastructure solutions for emerging markets and advancing workforce development, because again and again, we noted it's all about people. We'll begin now in panel 4 with a look at where things stand with ICAO's implementation support program. As you know, over decades, ICAO has built an impressive framework of standards and recommended practices. Now and in future, how can we move forward and be sure that this framework truly delivers impact on the ground? Because again and again, we spoke about the fact that it's when implementations meet up with reality that we really achieve our goals. So as most of you know from experience, the challenge lies in the face of implementation in a situation of increasing complexity across a number of different dimensions. So how can we move from a model of support that is sometimes fragmented or reactive to one that is truly strategic, coordinated, and collaborative? Our panel brings together a wide range of stakeholders, outstanding across numerous sectors, to share perspectives on how better to align efforts, strengthen partnerships, and address the root causes of safety challenges while making full use of resources available across the global aviation ecosystem. It's my pleasure now to hand over to panel moderator Michelle Merkle. She is director of the Navigation Bureau at ICAO. She formerly served in leading positions at the US FAA, and she has over 35 years of experience working to improve the safety, capacity, and efficiency of the global aviation system. So, dear Michelle, take it away, and please, all panelists join her now on stage. Thank you so much. Have a great discussion.
Good morning, everyone. You all get bonus points for being here after that late evening. And I'd love to begin by thanking our hosts from the Kingdom of Morocco for such a wonderful gala event last night. That was really great. So this morning, we have a very interesting panel for you, I think, and even if you're a little bit tired, I know that our speakers will keep you energized and awake this morning. So first, let me introduce our panelists. Sitting next to me, I'm very pleased, we have with us Ms. Delphine Michaud-Naudet. She's the representative of the European Union to ICAO, and I know that Delphine brings with her some valuable insight on international cooperation and support mechanisms. Next to her is John Veglio. John is the Executive Director of Aviation International at Transport Canada, and he has extensive experience at the national level, policy and implementation. Mr. Maurizio Motta is President of the Commission for Implementation of the Brazilian Airspace Control System. And Maurizio represents a major operational and implementation-focused institution. And then I have two of my colleagues from ICAO, our regional directors, Mr. Matau from the ICAO Asia Pacific region. And Matau oversees one of the most diverse regions in terms of implementation needs and capacity building challenges. And then Mr. Nicola Rallo, he's the regional director for the ICAO Europe and North Atlantic region. And Nicola brings deep experience in regional coordination and implementation strategies across all the states. So welcome to all of the panelists. So as we all know, ICAO's implementation support program is really the cornerstone of the organization's efforts to advance the No Country Left Behind initiative. Through this program, ICAO works closely with states to provide capacity development and implementation support aimed at strengthening states' civil aviation systems. At the same time, the context in which we're providing this support is becoming ever more complex. States are facing evolving operational and regulatory challenges, significant regional disparities, and growing expectations to deliver tangible results that are aligned with national development priorities. In parallel, the international community is being called upon to deliver support that's not only effective, but better coordinated, more efficient, and more results-driven. This evolving landscape underscores a critical reality, and that is that implementation support cannot be delivered in silos. Effective and sustainable outcomes increasingly depend on collaboration between international organizations, states and development partners, with industry stakeholders and others who bring complementary expertise and resources. Ensuring that all our efforts are aligned, coherent, and mutually reinforcing it's really essential to maximize impact and ensure that there's no fragmentation and no duplication. So in that context, today's discussion will focus on three core questions. What are the most challenging needs, the most important needs across the regions? What new approaches are being developed to strengthen collaboration, and how can we collectively work more effectively to deliver results on the ground for the states? We're particularly looking at practical examples, experience-based insights, and lessons learned, and I know that our panel have a lot to share today. So let's get started. So for my first question, and we'll start with Delphine, from your perspective, what are some of the most pressing needs of the states or the regions?
Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Michelle, and also for this good introduction that is raising very valid points. So from the perspective of the European Union, there are several needs which are, I would say, equally pressing. Obviously, to our point of view, safety and security are essential. They are the cornerstone of air transport, but also environmental sustainability, which is essential to achieve our global objective of net zero emission by 2050. But equally important, we think, is the development of air transport, also economic dimension, which is very important for the states to be able to strive and get all the benefits that air transport is bringing. And we'll have a very important conference at ICAO this year about this economic dimension. So this is why, from the EU perspective, we have been supporting all these objectives in all ICAO region for many years with capacity building projects on safety, security, environment, and also economic dimension. And from our point of view, all the work on capacity building and implementation support is absolutely essential, and we are very proud to contribute to it and are committed to continue to contribute to it.
Thank you, Delphine. So Delphine just actually referred to many of ICAO's strategic goals in our 2026 to 2050 strategic plan. Certainly goal 1, which is to ensure every flight is safe and secure. You talked about the economic aspect, the environmental aspect, and then also made reference to the air traffic conference, which is coming up this November. So good to know ICAO is certainly aligned, then it sounds like, with what the EU's priorities are. John, how about from your perspective?
Yes, bonjour à tous. Merci au Royaume du Maroc pour être les hôtes du symposium. Bon matin aussi à tous ceux qui participent ce matin. So in terms of my views on pressing needs, there's a few. I think my colleague here has listed a few lists of pressing issues, and I think we all agree that, all the way from ICAO compliance to, in terms of STARPs, to, the implementation of a SAF regime for the reduction of emissions, building the next generation of aviation professionals, dealing with new technologies, emerging technologies, so advanced air mobility. So there's a lot of new entrants in this system that we need to absorb. So I think we can spend a whole day talking about what the priorities are. But in my views, being involved in capacity building and technical cooperation for over the years, I think sustainability, achieving sustainability is very, very important. So I think we do a very, very good job at offering individual activities, workshops, training, assistance, but making sure that when we talk about capacity, the capacity that is being built is actually sustained over time. We need to ensure that support being provided needs to stay, and we're actually building that capacity that will last. If not, it just becomes routine assistance, so the value is diminished over time. So you take, for example, compliance with SARPs. That is great, but we need to understand what's the root cause of not complying with SARPs. I haven't yet met a state that does not, have the willingness or technical capability. So we have to look at those foundational pieces and say, what is driving some of these irritants, issues? Why are these the priorities? And really address the root causes, which could be from a financial element, a resource element, a technology element. Well, we have to assess, and we have to have different performance indicators to make sure that our efforts are being sustained by the recipient state. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And actually, a couple excellent points there. We hear from states all the time that one of the biggest challenges is the resources, keeping the resources. Again, ICAO doesn't have the bandwidth to go back time and time again and keep delivering the same training. We need to be able to sustain those capabilities within the states. So that's a real challenge, figuring out how to do that. And then also your point about identifying what are really the root causes of the challenges. You're right, it's not like states don't want to implement SARPs, right? Everyone wants to be compliant and be safe and ensure interoperability. So again, why do we have those challenges? And that's one of the things we're going to try to untackle this triennium. So thank you. And Maurizio, how about from Brazil? Can you share your perspective?
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you the opportunity to be here and share some experience. From the perspective of Brazilian Department of Airspace Control, which is responsible for air navigation service in a country of continental dimensions, one of the most pressing needs today is ensure sustained investment in initiatives that enable interoperability. In our view, the global objectives have been clearly defined by ICAO, GAMP, Global Air Navigation Plan. The great challenge is implementation, because transform these objectives into operational capabilities demands a lot of time, resource, and above all, strong regional coordination. In this context, initiatives such as No Count Left Behind are essential because they reinforce the need for collaboration to reduce asymmetries and advance together. A concrete example, when this collaborative approach has proven effective, was the Grupo de Estudio e Implantação do Espaço Aéreo SUN, which focused on a harmonized implementation and development across the South American region. Through this effort, Brazil has supported other states in air research, PBN, space design, and pursuit development, contribute to a more effective regional airspace interactions. It's worth highlighting that the ICAO Sun Regional Office in Lima has played a fundamental role in this process, supporting all the states in moving from planning to implementation. That's it.
Thank you for that, and I know there are some other panels that will talk about financing as well, because to your point, new infrastructure is quite costly, but we needed to evolve the aviation system, so thank you for that perspective. So my next question goes to our two regional directors. In your region, what new initiatives or approaches have you launched to enhance collaboration and implementation support? And Matal, let's start with you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, for the questions. As beginning, you mentioned that APAC is really a diverse region. So we have 39 member states in our region, and we almost have the 60%, more than 50%, 60% of the world population. It's a huge region. It's only 39 states, but it's a huge region. And we have 15 small island developing states and 5 landlocked developing states. So it's very diverse. We have a big aviation country, very small countries. For example, we have a Pacific small island developing states, which have 13 members are there. Some countries very small, maybe only 20 or 30,000 populations. So, but APAC is also the fast growing, as we mentioned, and also we are almost 33% of the world volume of air transport, and still fast growing in the next 10 days, the next 10 years. Probably they are talking about 50% of total world volume in the next 10 to 15 years. And also and so for most of the countries, the GDP, the tourism contribution to GDP is huge. Yesterday, I remember Morocco mentioned about 5 to 10%, but in my region, in some of states, almost 40% of their GDPs count on the GDP, on their income. So that's why the aviation is so important for most of the states. We're talking about the water initiatives. So we have very limited resources. Obviously, ICAO globally have very limited resources, but certainly regional office have very limited resources. Although probably the APAC regional office is the largest among the other 7, because they have another regional sub-office in Beijing. Our headquarters of APAC is in Bangkok, and we have another new office established 3 years ago in Fiji, Nati. But we still have very limited resources. We need to focus on the priorities. We are working on that. What is really the priorities in our region? I think one of the things that I feel, or we discussed with many of the DGs in my region, it is oversight system. We need to enhance our oversight system. We still have a lot of accident incidents. And what is the problem coming from? Many countries do not have very strong, powerful oversight system. So we focus on the training the global government safety inspectors. So in the last 1.5, almost 2 years, we trained almost 200 government safety inspectors. This is including the operation, personal licensing, and also airworthinesses. But we still have the project, which is by the DGC, by the conference of the ministerial conference, and also DGC conference. It is that to train the trainer. We will feel shame that we have very little instructors endorsed by ICAO for the government safety inspector training. We are less than Africa. So I think why we need to have our own instructors in our region to not only help other states, but also you have to enhance your own country oversight capability. So we only have, now we have only 6 ICAO endorsed instructors for the GSI, but they are going to focus on this. And the other initiatives we are talking about, we are working on the capacity building, which is also very core areas for our region, that we are working for the development of we set up the Asia-Pacific Training Cooperation Framework. So we have about 12 states as a member. ICAO coordinate this, and we do the study needs requirements from the state. We do the survey, we got the report. So we want to focus on the training of these professionals. Some of our colleagues mentions next generation aviation professionals. If you have the 10% of 8% growth, and you need professionals. And ICAO not only focusing on the GSI training, I think we need to also focus on the next generation aviation professional trainings. So far, this is, we have certainly lots of initiatives that we focus on these priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Matao. Definitely, you're doing some innovative stuff there, and I couldn't agree more. Like I said, ICAO, we can't just rely on the resources that we have. So train the trainer in the region, I think that's really critical. The cooperation forum that you've established in the region, I think will hopefully yield great benefits. So thank you for that. Nicola, how about what are you doing in your region?
Thank you very much, Michelle, and many thanks to the Kingdom of Morocco for their great support and warm hospitality. Shukran bazaf. Distinguished colleagues and participants, good morning, sabah khir. Michelle, perhaps I may begin with a brief clarification, because you mentioned the UNAT office. This is our name, but we are not just limited to Europe and the North Atlantic. In fact, my office serves the largest accreditation area in ICAO, covering 56 states, across 14 time zones, and not just in Europe and North Atlantic, but also Central Asia. We have our 3 North African states, including Morocco. This area is, as you can imagine, very diverse. It includes highly advanced aviation systems, both at the national level, and we have the strongest RSO in our area, EASA, so it's an asset. But we also have challenge states. We have a number of developing countries, including 9 landlocked developing countries. And this is exactly why implementation support cannot be a one-size-fits-all. We also have very limited resources. We serve 2 large perks, and the bandwidth we have is quite limited. We have to make the best of our limited resources. That includes strong cooperation and coordination. Let me take you back to the first GSS 4 years ago that was graciously hosted by Turkey in beautiful Istanbul. I had the privilege to be sitting in your position, moderating actually the first panel of the first GSS, the ministerial panel. I shared 2 messages then, and I'm very glad to see that they remain not only relevant today, but they were highlighted by some of my colleagues. The first one was root causes. John was very eloquent, so I may be less eloquent than him. But again, if we want better and sustainable implementation support, we must go beyond identifying challenges and beyond just listening to the state's requests or need. We have to really understand the root causes. And this is not given directly by USOP results, so it means a little bit of not information, intelligence gathering, and reflection that go through, that's the way we do it in my office, interactive discussions with the states, but also iterative. We don't jump to conclusions. We go back, we see what was done in the past, what is done by others, what is planned to be done by others, so that we don't duplicate. And this is, again, essential if we want long-lasting results. Training, for example, was mentioned by my colleague, Matao, is essential, no doubt. It is critical, but it's not enough on its own. If trained staff cannot be retained, the impact, the magic word was said by the master of ceremony and you and my colleagues, is impact. The impact is lost. So we must strengthen institution and we must address workforce retention as an absolute priority. In other words, it is absolutely fundamental And I say this not as a regional director, but the former chief of the USOP program, because we go audit states, we go back, whether USOP and USAP, and if we don't address these institutional issues, these root causes, then we'll find the same results. So it is fundamental to prioritize efforts to make aviation authorities competitive employers. We have a question in USOP. It's a brilliant one. It says competitive employers able, well, it doesn't say competitive employers, it says able to attract, train, and retain the most qualified and experienced staff. So train is just one of them. It's attract, train, and retain. The second message I shared back then 4 years ago, and I had fantastic panelists, including His Excellency the Minister of Transport of Angola, who was there from the first time and still there with us, was collaboration. That stronger and better collaboration was essential. This means greater consistency and convergence, greater efficiency and better return on investment for those who believe in us, donors, and including finance institutions. So we must work smarter and together. Now, these are good ideas, but let's move from idea to action. And I'll tell you about one program, and it's a good illustration of this that we initiated 2-3 years ago in my office. It's called COSPA, Country Strategic Plan of Action. We launched it to support safety enhancement, so we prioritize safety in this very case for Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is one of our Central Asian states. It's a landlocked developing country, and it's ICAO's only doubly landlocked developing countries. That is, all the neighboring countries are also landlocked developed countries. It's the only example we have in ICAO. So you can imagine how vital aviation is. COSPA represents a shift in how we support implementation. It has 5 so-called focus areas. And before we jump to safety oversight, there is one which is called strategic planning, which includes institutional issues, including reforms, amendment to the law. And then we have a second area, which is safety oversight. Focus area number 3 is accident investigation, of course, the independent system and authority. Number 4 is safety management, both at the state and industry level. And number 5, very key, is operational safety. So it means that we are tackling in parallel the work by the government and the legislator, the work by the authorities, and the work by the industry, the frontline operators. What makes COSPA very different is also its structure. It's based on a simple document, which is a commitment signed at the ministerial level. The ministers committing to prioritize activities for the COSPA. And then we have a 3-year plan, so it's time-bound. It's aligned with the state's national development priorities. So it's also very important because we have to talk to a level, including the Prime Minister, that understands without going through all the aviation acronyms that we love so much in our community. So for all the 5 focus areas, we have priority objectives, not too many. We prioritize them by definition. And for all of them, we have key performance indicators and targets that we aim at achieving at the end of the plan, which is, or the program in this case, 3 years. So we have targeted actions, both on-site and online, and we have a strong network of partners. I'll give you the list because it's quite impressive. It includes states, international organizations, industry partners, that is France and the United States, which I want to thank wholeheartedly. We have both the regulatory authority, FAA and DGAC, and we have the investigation authority, the 2 leading investigation authorities in the world, US NTSB and the French BA. They're closely associated and very much engaged. But we have also IATA, ACI, ACI Europe. Consul will be joining this year, actually, so we have more partners joining in. Airbus, Boeing, ATR, and very importantly, the World Bank, which is actively engaged. And they're all aligned around one objective, which is working with the state authorities and industry towards tangible, sustainable progress in safety. So in essence, in conclusion, COSPA is not just about capacity building. It is about real impact, stronger collaboration, and a model that can scale globally. So we want to be very humble because we're doing something new, and we have technical coordination teams that meet online almost on a monthly basis. Then we meet on site in Uzbekistan on a yearly basis for a day with all our partners at executive level. And back to back, we have a forum of discussion with the industry leaders, the safety leaders from all airlines, airports, ANSPs, training organizations, maintenance organizations. We engage with them. Very importantly, we listen to them to try to connect what's happening on the ground. So a message for our sisters and brothers joining from Africa. I want to thank you so much because you invited me to present the COSPA initiative. Again, it's an initiative, it's a pilot. We're ready to take all lessons learned and then to improve it. But I had the chance of presenting it in AFI Week in beautiful Zimbabwe last week, and it got a lot of interest. And of course, I will be very pleased to present the outcome of the 3-year implementation at the next AFI Week. And remember, in UNAT, we also have 3 African states, including Morocco, so we are very much engaged into the all AFI activities together with my dear colleagues from ISAF and WACAF's office. Thank you very much, Michel.
Thank you, Nicola, and thank you for talking a little bit about COSPAC, because I think it is an excellent model, and we're anxious to see the results. And I think you also hit on the importance of our partnerships with industry and with the international organizations, because we know states don't have the resources on their own to solve the challenges that we have. You know, we also talk quite a bit about, we all say prioritize. We need to prioritize, and we absolutely do. But I think between Nicholas and Matau, you saw the diversity that we have in the states and the states' needs, and no state is more important than the other in what their needs are. So it's very difficult to prioritize. But what we can do, I think, is group these needs, because there are common challenges, and I think we have to tackle them together, I think, and this is where regional cooperation is so important. We can't look at this on a state-by-state basis. It's just too overwhelming. But I think if we look collectively at these challenges and group them and partner states that have the same kind of needs, I think we can move forward. So thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So Delphine, starting with you again, could you provide some examples of effective implementation support activities that have been coordinated and implemented in partnership with ICAO and other donors and other stakeholders?
Sure, and I think also Nicola raised a very important point, which is how collaboration is really essential to ensure an effective implementation support all together. So from the European Union side, a few years ago, we initiated a dialogue with ICAO in order to identify how we can better work together on capacity building and implementation support, and if we can build a real partnership between the EU and ICAO to better serve the needs of the states. So from the EU side, we are supporting, as I said before, many projects around the world